Hey family, it's Wednesday, December 3rd, and currently I'm procrastinating for a moment to give you guys a quick update. I'm finishing up the week's lesson plan for the Tag Lab Game Studios. We're going to be teaching the kiddos starting on Monday. I'm pretty excited to get started. We're going to be teaching them Kodu Game Lab first. It's a Microsoft product. It's a very basic game engine. The kids don't need to learn any code. They don't need to learn syntax. They can just drag and drop some items in, assign it some basic behavior logic, and then really just go ham with the software. I'm excited to see what they can do with it. I'm also kind of nervous to see what I can do as a teacher, but it should be fun. Besides that, though, there's not much to update about except the anticipation. So this is a very late video. I completely skipped the week of Thanksgiving. I had that time to be productive, but just fell into my generation's ennui. I'm bouncing back this week with a couple quickfire ideas, and I want to respond directly to a question you had regarding my last video, Mom. How can I build a connection with people I've never met? And this seemed really silly to me because A, I've met the people in Derp Company. I hang out with them every week. B, I'm being obstinate in this answer. C, this really deserves a full video to go into, but I can say with confidence that many people have already looked specifically at how well we socialize in virtual environments. Links to the 2 studies in the doobly-doo. The gist of this, though, is that the distance and often faceless interaction offered in these virtual spaces actually encourages newcomers to initially engage in their community. However, without additional structures in place to encourage further socialization, that enhanced participation bottoms out pretty quick. Which brings me to my final point on this brief response. The leaders of Derp do a lot of work to encourage that participation and create a welcoming environment in games, or just in our TeamSpeak voice chat. Hythe and Jill have created a framework which then allows other members to create deep social interactions. And where a game allowed for quick, shallow engagement, the people themselves have built a strong community with deep roots that relies on each other and not a video game to remain connected. So last night we had our final class. It's my Games and Society class, and as you might imagine, we talk a lot about where games belong and where they can grow in our society. I asked the class if they think that games and play would continue to be seen as these trivial pastimes in the mainstream public, or if there would be some major paradigm shift. Would we see games take a more meaningful place amongst the majority of people? This is a question that gets tossed around a lot in gaming circles, and I know a part of me asks this, as many others do, because we want some kind of confirmation that we are legitimate, that what we're spending our time on is useful and worthwhile. And while I don't think that there's anything wrong with a healthy amount of self-doubt, I think we need to recognize whenever it's going beyond that healthy point. Alternatively, it's interesting because there's a lot of debate within gaming circles and plenty of resistance towards changing games towards a more artistic and expressive medium. And you know what? These people are right. I enjoy my FIFA, Dragon Age, League of Legends, and I don't want that taken away any more than I want my fun movies like X-Men or 300. But there isn't an art-fun binary. I also enjoy games that attempt to reach something meaningful. Braid, Spec Ops: The Line, This War of Mine. I enjoy those games as much as I enjoy movies like Schindler's List, Requiem for a Dream, or Splice. I think an interesting thing to consider about the evolution of video games is that they were made in a post-industrial mass media society. We haven't seen too many new artistic mediums come along under similar conditions, with 2 notable exceptions. Graffiti and comic books, or graphic novels. I'm not sure what the PC term is there. I have to do some research, but I do want to explore the parallels. I know several people have already compared the demonizing of comic books to that of video games, especially with the congressional hearings. But I'm more curious about what happened within those circles. A good comparison might be how plenty of artists hated Pablo Picasso and Jackson Pollock's initial works. Many probably still do. But I think that the world of art is richer for their exploration of the medium. I still want my dumb games. I want my critical strategies, my Twitch-based competitive multiplayers. But I also want my reflective and philosophical treatises. I'm not sure those games really exist yet, but I want to see them made. I'll end this video with an update that probably explains why I'm digging into what games can become. Currently I'm writing a well-played paper on the game Spec Ops: The Line, which will absolutely get its own video. In my paper, I'm looking at how Yager Studios uses a pretty generic shooter mechanic in order to tell meaningful but unoriginal story. The game is inspired by Heart of Darkness, but it's not retelling the story. True, it looks at the themes, the depths of man's animal baseness and our overall will to dominate, but it's more commentary on war games rather than war itself. In doing so, Spec Ops treads a fine line of being critical of the very gameplay in the game. The game doesn't comment directly to say that we are good or bad for making and playing these games, but it holds up a mirror to the player and sadly asks, is this what you really want? It wonders why we enjoy these games, and why we fund a massive industry that creates hero fantasies based around slaughtering other humans by the hundreds.
Good kill.
We like our stories to have meaning, and when executed well, they can have an impact that is discussed for generations. See your Ender's Game, Lord of the Rings, Fahrenheit 451, and Narnia. Messages aren't always subtle in these, but the philosophy and worldviews behind the narratives create compelling stories and a meaningful experience for the reader. I guess the question I'm wrestling with in this paper, and in my overall study of game design, is this. Can a game express meaning? Through the gameplay and the narrative, can it contain a philosophy? And at what point does that philosophy break the game so as to invalidate any message it may contain? Thanks for watching, guys. I'll talk to you next week.